Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more buckshot testing, and today we've definitely got a rather interesting combination to try out because it's a shell that we haven't tested in a good long while on the channel, but in the past when we have tested it, it's been a little on the disappointing side overall. So who knows, maybe we might get lucky with today's choke combo. We're just gonna have to see what happens. But as for those shells I've got today, I brought out some of the Winchester Super X buckshot loads. These ones are the 12 gauge, 2 3/4 inch, 9 pellet load of double-aught buck, moving about 1325 feet per second. Like I just mentioned, we haven't tried these in a good while on the channel, and they have been rather disappointing, especially considering that the military grade Winchester buckshot loads that are the exact same shells as these have way outperformed them. So I guess we'll see what we can get from them out of today's combination. But as for that setup, I brought out the Remington 1187. It's got a 28-inch barrel on it, and for the choke we've got, I decided to throw in the Kicks Buck Kicker full choke. This particular one measures out right at a 693 constriction, so very typical full choke type of range, but it has shown us some pretty nice results, especially with buckshot shells that are generally some pretty kind of average or below average performers. This choke tends to give them a little boost, so we'll see how it can do with these today and if this might be the magical combination for them or not. But as for today's test, everything is set up the same as usual. I've got the big sheet of paper at 40 yards, as well as the chronograph so we can get our velocity from the shell and the templates that we can lay up over our target when we go look at our results. So let's get you guys to view that target and see if this is the magical combination with this buck kicker choke that's gonna make these Super X double-aught loads perform even halfway decently. I don't know what we're gonna see, but let's take our shot and see what we get. Alright, that shell gave us 1282 through the chrono. Boss claim is 1325, so we are a little bit under that, but still 1280s for a load of double-aught like that is plenty fine. So looking okay for a velocity up here, but how did they actually pattern down there at 40 through that buck kicker? Let's go check it out and see. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and I gotta say, right off the bat, definitely a massive improvement over what we had previously seen. Before anything, I will back up here and pop up another picture side by side of what the previous result was, so you guys can get a reference as to how bad these actually used to be when we previously tested them. So yes, that is definitely a big improvement. We had all 9 pellets on the paper. The white dot was my point of aim. The paper's 36 inches wide, and I did measure the farthest 2 points across, pretty much diagonal there, top left to bottom right, and that gave us a 23 1/4 inch spread. However, we had a 14 1/4 inch spread for these 7 pellets right across the middle here, excluding the very top left flyer and the very bottom right one down there. So excluding those 2 flyers, 14 1/4 inches right across the middle of our pattern there, that's pretty solid. Definitely not a whole lot to complain about there. As far as the core area goes, now I would of course love to have those 2 flyers condensed down, but that's kind of a roll of the dice when it comes to a lot of double-aught loads. They seem to always have a flyer or 2 in them, so nothing unusual, but most definitely a significant improvement through that buck kicker choke, no doubt about it. So now let's throw a couple templates up and get a little better reference as to how it actually performed over just the blank sheet of paper. So first up is our 10-inch circle, and at 40 yards we had 5 pellets within a 10-inch circle, so very much the average here for a decent double-aught buck load. 5 to 6 pellets is pretty good, so we definitely have a pretty decent core on our hands here. And overall you can see that we only have those 2 flyers that are outside the template there. Everything else is within the 10-inch circle or right behind the actual template there. There's 2 more pellets, so a lot of your pattern is condensed right there around where you want it to be. So for a 10-inch core at 40, looking pretty decent. But let's throw some animal templates up and see how it looks in an actual hunting scenario. And here's our deer template. If we line it up with our point of aim, we would have had a definite 8 pellets that would have hit him, 7 of which are right through the vitals and or shoulder area there. We had one of the flyers up here that might have just barely clipped his back, and the other one is just in front of his chest down there. But we still got a lot of them right through your vitals there. So yeah, that's absolutely a dead deer, hands down, no doubt about it. He wouldn't make it very far, if anywhere at all. So even with a couple of those flyers, you still have a more than good enough core to take out on a deer hunt. I wouldn't hesitate to use that combination if I could consistently get good performances out of those shells, which for me, I would want to try a few more of them just to make sure, considering what I have seen from these shells previously and some of their inconsistencies. Either way, absolutely good enough for a deer hunt. But let's throw the hog template up. For those of you hog hunters, I think it's going to be pretty much the same story, but we'll take a look at it anyway. And here's that hog template, and just like I thought, it is the exact same story. Absolutely good enough to take a hog with it as well, out to 40 yards. That's going to be more than capable of getting the job done, no doubt about it. And for you predator hunters that might want to use this load, or for anybody else that might be hunting deer or hogs and have a coyote come along or something like that, a coyote would be just a touch smaller than what this hog template is, so you would have more than enough pellets through the vitals on one of those guys to drop him as well. And of course, a two-legged target all the way out to 40 yards is not going to be a problem either if you ever were to get in a situation like that. So overall today, definitely not a terrible pattern. Yeah, we have a couple of flyers, but that's not too surprising. This is only a buffered load of buckshot. It doesn't have a wad or anything like that. So that's a pretty nice performance overall. And that buck kicker choke most definitely made a massive difference here. No doubt about it. I mean, previously we had been covering most of this paper down here and sometimes not even getting all of the pellets on this big pallet sized piece of paper down here at 40. So that buck kicker absolutely does make a difference. So I would say looking pretty decent here for a pattern today. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that result right there? That's a pretty solid pattern overall. For a very basic run-of-the-mill Super X double-aught buck load, I'll take that for what it is. Considering what we had previously seen from these shells, that is a drastic improvement, and that is more than usable for a deer hunter, a hog hunter, or anything like that. That's going to get the job done for whatever you would need it for. So coming into it here, I didn't really know what we were going to see. That buck kicker choke could have made a difference. It could have done absolutely nothing to help it, and I clearly think it improved our pattern some. Now, from my experience, I do still think the Winchester military grade double-aught buck, which is essentially the same shell, is probably a little better, or at least a little more consistent in my experience than what these have been. And you can get those at a cheaper price sometimes too. So if you want a basic load of double-aught, that's probably my first choice, because they did quite a bit better than even this through that same buck kicker. But still, not a bad result today overall. Just those two flyers to worry about, and even those two aren't terrible considering some of the flyers we've seen. So as always, leave your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these Super X double-aught loads? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Is that a combination or pattern that you would hunt with? And what other shells or choke combos do you want to see with either that buck kicker or those Super X double-aught shells? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All of that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.